Especially like I had this thing like doing things probably like near the last minute. Like that's what I did at IIT. That doesn't work here. Let me tell
Yeah.
you, like every day you have deadlines, every day you have so many submissions. Thank you.
So, like you talked about the cost of the masters. Like, can you give us more insight? Like, what exactly, like, the salary you earned at something like in 2 years? Like, all of it was invested in the masters. Like, what was it about? Like, if somebody is going to get into masters straight out of the college, what like will the cost hinder him from doing so? Because like the cost is more, then he can do a job for 1 or 2 years, then he can invest that money there. Like, what is it about?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. First of all, I was in Samsung for 3 years, not two. And yeah, it is true that all of my money went into CMU and more. Like it was really expensive. So one thing I would say is like there are many. So there's public universities in US and then there's private universities. So the public universities like UT Austin, UCSD, they are much cheaper. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's coming right out of undergrad, uh, maybe they can try more towards like, and if cost is an issue, you can try to go for a public university. I think you
Mm-hmm.
maybe we should talk about scholarships. So I did look a bit into that. There were some, I don't remember the names, but there are some organizations or institutions in India who who give some scholarships. Like you fill a separate SOP for them and fill a separate application for them, and then they'll approve or reject it. But I guess the maximum amount of money they pay is like maybe like 5 to 10 lakhs or something. So one good thing I would say, and of course, please keep in mind all of my advice, everything that I'm saying is pre-COVID. So please,
Mm-hmm.
whatever decisions you make, like about your life, like about whether to do masters or not, please consider that factor as well. And I have no experience in that. Like when I was making my decisions, like COVID hit when I was in my second
Mm-hmm.
semester. So why I'm saying that is like uh, many people take loans, right? So there's this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there are many options. Like you can go with like Indian banks, but I think they're known to give you a much higher rate, or and also like the terms are not very convenient. So one good option is like many people go with this Prodigy Finance. So you get that loan in like I think just like 3 4 days, and they'll give you a loan of like I think 50 lakhs or something, just based on your profile, with no guarantee, with no what's that term like. So in like Indian banks, you have to give your maybe let's say your father's name, so that if you're not able to pay, then they'll maybe seize the
Mm-hmm.
assets of your father. I'm not sure. Like they'll yeah. But in companies like Prodigy, you don't have to give anyone else's name. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like you could, if you really want to go to university, which is really expensive, you always have the option of taking a loan. And believe me, yeah, let me say this, like it's so easy to pay that loan. Like once you get a job in US, like especially like it's the other way around, right? Like when in India, when you are going for the university, you don't exactly know how much you'll be paid in US. At that time, money is like going away from you, so you might be more scared that okay, it's so many dollars, and when you convert that in rupees, so it feels like a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, like once you get a job, and of course the caveat is you really need to work hard, and it's not like like you don't do anything and so as long as you work like decently hard, you'll get a good job, and the joining bonuses are also really good in US, and you'll end up paying that money in no time. Like I think the average case for many people is like maybe 1 to 2 years they end up paying the loan of their masters. So and scholarships, yeah, I didn't find them very useful, and also for Indian citizens to come to US, and uh, I don't think they are applicable for the scholarships that US universities give to only US citizens. So yeah, unless
Mm-hmm.
that's just my limited knowledge and understanding. Maybe there are some ways which I'm not aware about. Yeah.
So, sir, tell us about your experience while studying in a foreign university and how is it different from IIT?
So let me talk about like maybe the things I did at IIT and things I did at CMU. Maybe that will highlight the difference. So like I said before, in IIT, like mostly I would say for my case, most of my learning happened through IMG. The seniors were pretty cool, and yeah, they really like they hold this lecture series. I think I ended up learning like maybe like 8 languages, 8 or 9 languages while I was in IMG. All this like Django, Python, jQuery, like everything on the web development side. So learning wise, most of my learning came from IMG, and of course there was a bit of learning through the standard process as well, like the CGPA, like basically your courses,
Yeah.
right? But
Mhm.
in my case, I didn't really enjoy that part that much, and I won't say I learned like a lot from that. Maybe partly it's my fault, but anyways, the point is like that's something I really tried to fix during my master's time, and I took up some really good courses here, and one of the key differences I found was like the professors at CMU are really they really care a lot about making sure that you are understanding things, and they'll there are so many resources here, like the scale of courses is uh, very large, and there are a lot of resources here that can help you. For example, there's this really nice portal called Piazza in CMU, and it's used in other US universities as well. But basically, if you have any question at any point during the day, so randomly you just ask that question there, and you can even post that question anonymously, and you don't have to worry about what other students are thinking. Like, you ask this question and how you will be perceived. Yeah, that's one of the challenges I thought there were in IIT Roorkee. Like, you become that guy, right? Like the whole class is asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Correct, correct, correct.
So I think that's a
Like
big. Sorry. Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
Gesso thing, sort of.
Exactly. I didn't want to say that, but you said you said it. So I personally think that's a big obstacle in learning. Like that. Yeah. Whatever. You got the point. So of course there are many good things about IIT Roorkee, and I'll get into those. But yeah, this is one part where I like in CMU at least, like the culture was so learning oriented. Like everybody was because another reason was like you pay a lot of money, so everybody want to get their money's worth, right? So
Yeah.
everybody works really hard,
Yeah, correct.
and like yeah, and everybody's asking a lot of questions, and it's seen in a very positive way. And so this I was a TA for this course, right? Deep learning course under Professor Bhiksha in CMU, and we were managing, I think, and I took that course in the previous semester. We were managing around like 500 or 600 students, and there were like so many TAs, and the system was so good. Like I got to see like behind the scenes, right? Like how CMU system works when I was this TA. So for those 500, 600 students that took that course, the average response time on Piazza, I think, was only like a few seconds. So and at any random point during the day, you ask any question relating to deep learning, and within like maybe 30 seconds or 40 seconds, you'll get a response.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's one of the key differences. Like learning is really encouraged, and like Professor Bhiksha and also other professors in CMU, like they they really like they used to observe many students and like hold extra sessions, extra classes, just to make sure students really get it. And there's this really nice assignment culture. Like you do a lot of assignments, and people take that cheating is taken very seriously. You have to do that on your own. Like they give you this huge orientation on day one, and I think that happens in all US universities, and they are very serious about it. They also tell you the stats, like of how many students they expel every year because they were caught in cheating. So I guess like yeah, that's like one of the things that uh, CMU takes really seriously. So you are forced to uh, either you get a really bad CGPA, you don't do anything, but if you want to get good grades, like you have to work really really hard. And I think yeah, CMU is sort of famous or notorious for like having immense high workloads. So yeah, I guess yeah, that's another difference. Life is not going to be chill at CMU. Like I personally had to cut down like all socializing, and like there were times I barely got to even eat or sleep. Like it was every like I couldn't imagine. Like I was there for 1.5 years. I couldn't imagine like I if I can delete even a single day out of that. Like every day felt like there's so much to do. There's so much to do, and of course that came with its own challenges. Like uh, I was not tuned to uh, to to carry such an immense amount of workload. especially like I had this thing like doing things probably like near the last minute. Like that's what I did at IIT. That doesn't work here. Let me tell
Yeah.
you, like every day you have deadlines, every day you have so many submissions, and of course it depends on the nature of your program. So I did Master of Computational Data Science in CMU, which comes under School of Computer Science. So basically, it's an intersection of systems and deep learning or machine learning, and like you have some mandatory courses, like maybe 3 or 4 courses that you have to take from systems and machine learning. But at the end, there's also HCI, human computer interaction. But the point is, like, other than that, you are free to take any courses in School of Computer Science, right? So I targeted some, and maybe we can get to this. Oh wait, you already asked me, right? Life at CMU. Okay, let me tell you life at CMU. So
Hmm. Yeah.
one of the yeah, let me tell you about some of the courses at CMU. It's so sort of mind blowing. So like I said, like you're free to, other than those mandatory courses, you're free to take any courses from School of Computer Science. So I took some really ambitious courses because yeah, I guess I really wanted to absorb as much um, as I could, like during those 1.5 years. So one course I took was cloud computing, and in that course, in one semester they teach you AWS, GCP, and Azure, all three. And not only that, during my 3 years at Samsung, like each and every technology that I ever heard of or ever worked on was covered in that course. Like be it Hadoop, Spark, right? Hadoop MapReduce, Spark, or Kafka, Samza, and and then we had this awesome team project, which like I would say ideally, like maybe in a company, it takes like maybe 20-25 people to do this amount of work. And I'm speaking that from experience. Like I have done similar things in Samsung as well. But in cloud computing, like there was this team of 3 people, and basically they give you this 1 TB of Twitter data, and you have the freedom of picking any language in the world you want, like be it Python or Java, any framework you want. So like Django or some Vertex. So yeah, I think we picked Vertex, and so you have to justify why you pick that framework, and then the goal is essentially to build this server. Out of that 1 TB data. So first you have to do this ETL, which is basically process that data and store it in any database in the world you want, like MySQL or NoSQL databases. And there's also a budget. So on AWS, you have to be within that budget to allocate resources for either your database or server. So yeah, choose your database, write your entire pipeline in Hadoop, MapReduce, or Spark, and so that team project runs parallel to your individual assignments. And one thing I remember was I didn't even know how to use Spark. I only knew Hadoop. I only knew Hadoop MapReduce, and so we wrote like 3 pipelines in MapReduce. But after a while, it was just we had to do a join, and we were really confused like how to do that join. It just felt like there is no possibility to do that using Hadoop MapReduce. So we had to wait for an individual assignment in the same course which taught us Spark. So we learned Spark, and then we used Spark to build that fourth pipeline. So yeah, there's lots of learning happening parallel. And so basically, so you have to write these pipelines, you have to store the data, and you want to reduce the latency. And ultimately they'll do a live test on Sunday which runs for like 7 hours, and your server will be sent like millions of requests, like it actually happens in industry, right? You have, let's say you have a product running, and then your service is supposed to stay alive during that time. And that's how basically there was a leaderboard, and that's how you score points. But and you're also supposed to do auto scaling, like basically if you get more load, spawn more resources. But that there's a trade-off, right? That increases, like you have a budget, so that increases the cost. And at the same time, if the load reduces, you want to essentially lower the number of servers. So yeah, that was one course. And that was like I took that in the first semester, and that was a mandatory course for us. And uh, it was so intense. Like the other 3 courses that I had to take were like much lesser load than that. And also in my program, we were supposed to finish like 12 courses. So I had to finish like 4 courses every semester, because I was targeting to finish my masters in 3 semesters, because I could have stayed another semester, but yeah, that's really expensive. So I had to do 4 courses every semester. So yeah, I guess that also contributed to the workload. So yeah, I guess that gives some hint on like the scale, like on the difference between Indian education. Another course I took was this neural networks for NLP. It's so crazy. It's this PhD level course. So that entire course has no exams or anything. So basically, you have to pick a field in NLP. That's like task one of the course. Then you have to identify the state of the art in that field, right? You find the best in the world, whoever that is. That's task two, right? You do that survey. Then task three is you have to re-implement that state of the art in your own code, right? And then finally, task four is that you have to beat it. So only, so only if you beat the state of the art in any field of NLP of your choice will you get an A in that course. So yeah, it was a PhD level course, and I guess I just wanted to take like one out of my league course, like just to do it. Uh, so we and that was a team course as well. Like it was a team project. There were three of us. So but yeah, we worked really hard on that, and we weren't able to beat state of the art. We were able to match that. So yeah, I guess I just got an A minus, but that's good enough. At least I was worried I might fail because and that's like the major chunk. Like 60% of the grade, I think 50 or 60% of the grade is like just beating the state of the art. So yeah, like it's and of course this course wasn't mandatory. I just took it because and the lectures were so intense in that, like every lecture was just like an amalgamation of like research papers, right? Like he targets like one field in NLP, and one lecture is just all the research papers in that, like maybe in the past 4 or 5 years. And many of them were his own. Like that was Professor Graham Newbeck, by the way. He's really famous and really good. I didn't understand most of the
Mm.
lectures. They were too advanced for me. But I guess most of my learning in
Mm-hmm.
that course was through that my own project that I was doing. So yeah, basically these are some examples, and like I said, I did this TA thing, and there's much more to talk about. But long story short, like CMU has like this really very intensive courses. Like you have to give up everything else in life. Unless maybe you, like some of my classmates, they did their undergrad from CMU as well, right? So maybe they're more used to that load, and like already have that work life balance. But for someone like me coming from India, and like having that attitude, like maybe do things near the last minute, like it was really hard. And yeah, that was there. And also I didn't get, like, there was no, in IIT Roorkee, one very good thing is like the group culture, right? All these groups are really amazing.
Yeah.
In CMU, I didn't like spend a lot of, it was always like, it was all about my courses, right? And so yeah, that's, and also like it's your undergrad life, so you get to make lifelong friends. And uh, I guess yeah, this group thing, like I said, this like I still have IMG meets in like Bay Area or Seattle and Bangalore, so we are still in touch. So that's really good. And the people are really smart in IIT. Like I've seen like uh, yeah, like one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like and I went to Kota as well. Uh, that was a good place as well. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the like some of the smartest people I met are from IIT Roorkee, so that's a huge plus. Like especially like if you're in computer science, like uh, yeah. But I guess like the from the point of view of the enthusiasm of the professors, I would say like CMU is much better. Yeah,
And
definitely.
like when we talk about, like you
Yeah.
told us much about the education, like I can see like is there more practical knowledge in CME when you talk about than IIT Roorkee? Like I can see like there's much more practical knowledge. You're doing assignments, like actual assignments, end terms in some courses. Like actually is it the same for undergrad degree also? Like when you talk about, as your degree was a master's degree, like when you talk about the undergrad, is there also like practical knowledge is more than the theoretical knowledge?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So, like I said, in CMU, this cloud computing course, like it covered all the concepts and things that are actually being used in industry, right? So it is like extremely useful. And yeah, I just thought of, I'll tell you about this another difference in a minute. But yeah, to answer your question, in IIT, I guess most of my practical knowledge was through IMG. I would say maybe not a lot through my courses, but like this web development or the software engineering background that I built. So when I went into CMU, I had a strong software engineering background, And like I had worked on some applications of machine learning to put out these papers. Like all my papers are on applications of machine learning, but I lacked the knowledge of like core concepts of deep learning or machine learning or even cloud computing. So I guess that's what I focused on during CMU. So yeah, so both were useful. Like IIT experience was also useful in industry and like from IMG's point of view. But in CMU, so yeah, another thing I did was like that's one of the mistakes I made at IIT Roorkee. Like I was saying before, I didn't think a lot about like how life would be like after that. So I didn't make a lot of decisions like based on industry. But in CMU, like I tailored my entire program to make sure like every course that I take will be useful in industry later on. So I spoke to like multiple and shout out to everyone like who really helped me throughout these years. Basically, there were so many people. Like I just used to uh, ask like many doubts, like what courses should I take? Do you think this will actually be useful in the industry? I remember in my second semester before that, like I for like 15 days every day I used to change the courses that I was going to take next semester because I get some new insight every day. Then I realize, okay, maybe this is not that useful. So I was like, yeah, that I really wanted to make sure that this really helps me down the line. And another thing was, like I said, like in IIT, like this Geeks for Geeks thing, I didn't focus a lot on that. Even though I did participate in ICPC competitions, that was there. But ICPC uh, preparation is a bit different from interview preparation, I would say. Uh, maybe we can talk about how later. But the point is, so I wasn't really strong at least in my third year during the internship season, strong at uh, uh, all these Geeks for Geeks questions. Uh, Maybe I should call it DSA, not Geeks for Geeks questions, but yeah, data structure algorithm questions. But so that's one of the mistakes I corrected in CMU. I really wanted to. I'll be honest, like I really wanted to get into Google. So I sort of dreamt on it for many years. And like even during my time at Samsung, like we had this professional test. Basically, like every month they hold this test where you they ask a data structure algorithm question, and if you clear that question, like this one question like 4 hours, if you clear that, you go to the next level and they pay you some money. So I kept on participating in that, like to make sure, like because I knew one day eventually I'll apply for Google, and I really wanted to correct that mistake of not knowing Geeks for Geeks. And initially I had this I was scared a bit, right? Like I didn't know like if I could really like be good at these kind of questions. But eventually I realized like it's just practice. Like you just practice, and after a while you start seeing these patterns, and it's not a big deal as you think it would be. So yeah, basically when I gave the interviews at CMU, like I think I couldn't take out a lot of time during my masters to prepare for this, but I prepared for it in advance. So and let me say that for people in IIT Roorkee, like if you want to go to the academic path, then maybe focus a lot on your CGPA. If you want to go to the industry path, CGPA is sort of important because some companies have this cutoff. They won't allow you to give interviews if you don't meet that cutoff. But focus more on these data structure algorithm questions. Maybe start from first year. It takes a time to get a hang of it. So if you just want a good job and you don't care about higher studies, so yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let me get to another question. So, like, did you feel a sort of a culture shock when you started studying there? This could be more like this can be away from the study portion. Like, there's American culture. There are students from different sections. Like, there's someone from Europe. There's someone from India. There's someone from who lives in America. So they all have different cultures, right? So, like, how did you manage that? Like, the culture there affected you in some way. How did you deal with that?
Okay. So yeah, I guess there was a huge culture shock when I came here, because like life is really independent here. Um and yeah, let me try to answer it from a non-academic point of view. Basically, I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to effectively take care of myself. In India, I always had help, right? So I was in Bangalore, so
Hmm.
uh, it's not an uncommon occurrence. Like everybody has like cooks or like maids, right? So they do all these other tasks for you. But in US, you have to do everything on your own. You have to wash your clothes. You have to uh, cook and basically then wash the utensils as well. Like uh, there's help. There's like you have like dishwashers or washing machines, but you have to take time out of your like uh, day or like your mental space, right, for those things. And that was a that wasn't comfortable for me in the beginning. I wasn't used to that. I So till the last point, so CMU had this extra course that started for me even before I went to US, and that was a pretty intense course as well. Like that was in systems, and so yeah, it was also like uh, a very hard course, like cloud computing. So 2 3 months before going to US, I was completely in that uh, completely into that course. I didn't get a lot of time learning these things. So I guess, yeah, that's one difference. Another difference is the job search process, right? So in IIT Roorkee, like many companies, they come to the college, and like you getting an interview is not a big deal, right? You get the interviews. Maybe if you
Mm-hmm.
don't do well in those interviews, then you won't get the job. But that's not how it works in US. You have to do everything on your own. You have to the companies, they'll come to your college, but they'll just host career fairs, which in my opinion are not that useful. Like it depends. For some people it's useful, for some people it's not. So basically you'll stand in this huge line, and of course after COVID this started happening virtually, but there's this huge line, and then when you get your turn, you'll get a chance to speak with the one of the representatives of the company, and if they really like your profile, then they'll refer you, and then that's how you get an interview. That's one of the ways you get an interview. But in IIT Roorkee, like you don't need to do that. There's this whole really good placement cell, and right, so you get the interview.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's another problem. Like and you have to start early. Like one of the mistakes I made during my internship hunt process, which I actually corrected during my job hunt process during my third semester in CVU, was I didn't apply early enough. Like I made my resume a bit late because I was busy with this other course, right? And I was sort of expected as soon as I arrive at CMU, like in August, I should have had my resume prepared and started applying for all this positions immediately. So that's another problem. If even if you do everything on your own, even if you don't do it early enough, you delay things a bit. That could be another problem. Because there are like so many students from so many universities in US, many of them Indians, and like many of the population here, at least in CMU, was like Indians and Chinese people. So there are so many people in all these universities. All of them apply at the same time for the same position. So I guess, yeah, there's this whole pre interview process that you have to do in US, which you don't have to do in India. So that was another shock. You have to manage everything, and then there's this intense workload of assignments and projects and group projects and exams. Some courses did have exams.
Mm.
So yeah, that was the culture shock. And to answer your question about other cultures, so I've always like uh, been somewhat of a social person. Like I really like meeting new people, and I was like really excited, like before coming to US. Okay, I'll get to meet people from all countries. I'll have a good time. I'll get to know about their cultures. So, but I had to kill that immediately as soon as I started at CMU. I was like, okay, let's postpone this. Maybe I'll do it now this year, but yeah, I couldn't get to do that. Like I had to like being a very social person. At least in Bangalore, I used to have like multiple groups to have fun with. That was another culture shock. Like I had to completely give up on socializing and just work all the time, or I'm just cooking something for me, or yeah, it's just some utility tasks basically, all this setup. So initially it was really hard, but I guess eventually I got used to it. So one thing I never compromised on was like the my studies, like at CMU, my studies or this job hunt process. But I did compromise on a lot of other things, right? uh, yeah, like maybe I didn't pay a lot of attention on my health. Uh, I'm not saying like my health went really bad, but it's something that you should do always. Like you should have a good work life balance, and
Mm.
you shouldn't
Mm.
deprioritize your health over anything else. But I did that. Like if you spend too much of your time in one area, if you give it too much importance, then obviously other things will suffer a little bit. But
Okay,
yeah,
like it sounds
good thing is I
like you're
recovered.
genuinely
Yeah.
preparing. It sounds like a
Oh,
JEE preparation phase. Like you studying for two
oh,
years
it's
continuously.
much intense than that. Let me tell you. Like I went to
Oh
Kota
my
for
god.
2 years, and I remember that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to do masters, because I really enjoyed how they teach in Kota. Like it's basically the teachers care a lot about teaching you and
Mm-hmm.
making sure you get things. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to experience that. But yeah, in Kota it was really intense. But at least like there was some time to do, like I used to do some gaming or something. But in CMU, like you have no life.
My god.
And that's not true for all. Okay, let me put an asterisk. That's not true for all US universities. Like in UCSD, culture is
Mm-hmm.
pretty chill. And also that's not also true for all students. That might be true for me. Maybe like I wasn't good at maintaining this really good work life balance. But there
Mm-hmm.
were students in my class who managed things really well. Like they went to see movies as well, and they had a good time, like good time in terms of everything. I only had a good time in terms of like this job thing and the studies courses, and you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.